This is a video on how to remove the drive belt on a Bell Howell Filmosonic movie projector, Super 8 sound movie projector. I had put a post up in several Facebook groups on how to take the drive belt out of these particular models. Didn't really get too far with responses. I looked online. In a nutshell, to take the drive belt out of these is not as simple as, if any of you know, as taking a drive belt out of, let's say, a Bell & Howell silent auto load or a Chinon. I mean, very simple. The drive belt's right there. You take the old one off, you put the new one in. Not so with these. These are a challenge, and I ran into a couple of snafus, and I found out the hard way on how to take the belt out. But all is good, and I'm going to go through this with you. So getting back to the Facebook posts, I didn't really get too far. So I kind of took matters in my own hands, and I purchased the service manual. This is a reprint service manual, but it goes through the 1731 model all the way to the 1745 model. Basically, they're pretty much all the same. And forgive me if this video is a little shaky. I'm just trying to do this all with one hand. So, of course, when I got the manual, the first thing I did was look up how to remove the drive belt. And, you know, reading this, it's pretty simple. Yeah, take out a C-clip, and then they also give a figure, a blow-up of the parts. And, of course, there is your drive belt. And, you know, here is your C-clip. This little clip here, which I found out the hard way, had to come off. And also, what this didn't show in this particular diagram is the mute switch. And again, when I told you I found out the hard way, I damaged the mute switch, which I had to repair. But all is good now. It's working. But again, this is a lesson learned for me, and it's a learning curve. So I wanted to show you all in case any of you want to try to attempt this project of removing this belt. So, getting into the nitty-gritty of this thing. This is the original drive belt. I have a new belt on its way. The seller didn't have an exact belt. He said he has something that may fit. I took a photo of this with the diameter, rough diameter. He said he may have one. So that's coming. I had to replace the original belt, and I'll tell you why. So before I get into that, let me show you. Now, you saw the diagram. And again, forgive me if I'm trying to be... there we go. Okay. So let me get my little pointer here. This here... where is it? Okay. Right there. See that? There's a C-clip there, and it clips onto this shaft. This is a challenge to get to because I lost the C-clip originally. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in the projector, but I had to pull this C-clip off to get this roller, pulley assembly out, okay? Now, okay, so I took the C-clip out, all right, and I pulled the... Okay, I took the C-clip out of here. Where is it? Right there. I pulled it out, and I came across this little spring-loaded clip here. Now, what this does is this controls your forward, reverse, stop. This kind of gives it that, where am I? Oh, right here. Okay. This kind of gives it that spring-loaded action. See, snaps up. This is all the spring doing that. Okay, well, that holds the shaft in as well. So this clip had to come off, and you just kind of, as the shaft is coming, as you're pulling this whole assembly out, you have to get a pair of pliers and undo this clip. And then this whole pulley bracket comes out. Now, here is the kicker. Okay, right here, this little red device right here, this is a mute switch, okay? These pulleys come out. See this this shaft coming off of this drive pulley? Okay, this shaft hits that mute switch. Let me just get a pencil. I'll get something. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay. 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 This dark shaft here. See how it's touching that mute switch? So when you move your controls, that shaft moves. And you see how that mute switch is moving? What that does, when you turn this into forward, that hits that switch and that turns on the sound. When you release it, it shuts the mute switch off and then there's no sound. Okay? Well, what happened was when I took out this entire bracket, pulled this out, I busted the mute switch. And I'll try to get this. Okay, perfect. See this little crescent-shaped piece of metal right there? Yeah, well, that popped out. Okay, and I thought, okay, this is toast. How am I going to fix that? The sound is gone. Well, if you can see, I kind of improvised and I flung a little bit of solder right there. And I soldered the top of, these have like little slats, like there's a little slit that fits into there. And what this crescent-shaped piece of metal does is when this dark shaft pushes against this mute switch, it activates these tiny micro switches up here. This causes pressure and it turns the sound on. Well, this little crescent-shaped piece of metal popped out. Of course, I had to find it down in my workshop. That was fun. But once I did, and I didn't really know which way it went in, because, stupid me, I didn't realize that the entire bracket goes into a mute switch. And the manual didn't specify it either. So again, I learned the hard way. But getting back, I managed to get the this little crescent-shaped piece in, and there's a little notch here that the bottom fits in. There's an open little slot on this crescent-shaped piece, and the top piece was broken, so I had to solder it. And you can see that little blob of solder right there. Anyway, when you're taking these out, if you see that mute switch there, be very, very careful, because when you put this bracket back in and that shaft goes back in, you have to push this mute switch forward so that black shaft can fit behind it. I didn't realize I just pushed this thing back in and it busted the switch. And I thought all was lost. So I had to do some quick thinking, and that's why I soldered it. I thought about soldering it, and it does work. But this is really, really important. Be very mindful of this black shaft. It has to go behind the mute switch, and this curved piece of metal has to be facing inward. This was not easy. Anyway, getting back. So I popped off the C-clip. Now that I know about this stupid thing, I had to remove this whole bracket. Once this little spring clip come out as well, this whole roller, I'm sorry, why do I keep saying roller? This whole pulley assembly just comes out, this whole pulley bracket. 1, 2, there's the inner one here. This whole thing comes out. And then the belt has to go up and over this little speed control here. This is the 1824. See that right there? Yeah. This little rubber band comes up and the belt has to go up and over that bracket. And you have to kind of wiggle this thing in between here. The belt does come out. But why I put the original belt in is because I busted the mute switch. So I had to test it and make sure that it works. So I put it back in. I know this sounds a little bit confusing. So in a nutshell, to take this belt out, you have to undo the C-clip, which the original one's lost in the projector somewhere. So I have a stock of C-clips, which I put a replacement in there. C-clip comes off. The spring clip there, looks like the letter F, that has to come off. Oh, and when you put this back in, you have to make sure that the projector controls are in still, because those two parallel brackets, they have to line up perfectly in order for the top and bottom of that spring clip, as you can see, to get behind them and line them up. So you'll have the appropriate action to control the forward, reverse, and stop. So that has to come off. Because if not, you're going to be pulling at this thing, and that clip's going to prevent it from coming off. So the C-clip, the spring, be very mindful of the mute switch. Make sure that that shaft does not bump into that or bang it, because you will be in trouble. The whole bracket comes off. The speed control, the belt has to go up and over. Where is it? Up and over that speed bracket there. You can see the belt going in there. The rubber band comes off. The belt goes up and over that metal bracket. So I hope that makes some sense, or if you get a little idea of how it works, but these are not easy to do. So the belt, the original belt is on there. I did treat it with some rubber reconditioner. It does work. But I'm waiting for the new belt, but at least I know now what I need to do when the new belt comes and how to get this thing off without damaging the mute switch and screwing everything else up. So hopefully, I know this video sounds tedious and long, but this project was tedious and long. And again, I made several mistakes, but now I know when the new belt comes how to get this old one off and how to put the new belt on.